Welcome back to the Homestead Citadel. My name's Gray, and this afternoon I'm checking out this pasture here where I've been cutting brush, taking note, and documenting how thick everything is. I'm currently walking up the tire track trail from the side-by-side. I just released the cows into this pasture about 5 minutes ago, and they'll be on here probably all week because it's a pretty big pasture break for this one. So I'm interested to see just how much they eat, because they say cows don't eat forbs or weeds, and I know from previous grazes with these cows and other places that I've cut brush that the weeds or forbs come back first. The cows absolutely demolish them. Now they're not going to go too hard on stuff like that because there's just so much of it in this pasture, especially down closer to the house down there. But they definitely like their diversity, and that significantly reduces the amount of minerals that they eat for us. I think we go through about two 50-pound bags of salt a year for a herd our size, 14 head currently. I think that's a pretty fair estimate. That's probably even a little on the high side, because I haven't bought salt in a while, and I'm talking like maybe a year, and I just finished a bag. So yeah, just documenting. By the end of this video, you'll get to see an update of what a pasture looks like after they come off of it. I pretty much showed you from one corner to the other. You'll see a stark difference in the grass here in a second, because right up until about there is what they'll have access to. It's pretty big. It's probably, if this is a 4-acre field, that's probably almost 2 acres. Don't normally do this, but it's just the way this graze is going right now with this tree row here. I need to open up another access way to be able to get the poly braid through the tree row, because there's still residual fence in the trees up there at the high side. Got a rabbit in our pasture that the cows were just coming off of. Lots of small game around our farm, intentionally so. We like to, when I cut brush, I do have a tendency to leave piles of brush for the smaller wildlife to make a home in, so that coyotes, foxes, natural predators have their own food source without having to go after my livestock. But that's all I wanted to do tonight. Just move the cows and make note of what the pasture looks like. So at the end of this video, we'll see an update. The cows started down here at the bottom of the pasture, oh, probably a week or more ago at this point. You can see where the lines have been, you know, the poly braid has been. And they have access to all this. You can see the cattle trails because the pastures are so tall. In that corner there, I had to set up an extra poly braid just to make sure they couldn't get through that gap. And then this is the brush, the brush line that I've been clearing for the past 2 months now. Coming up on the cattle and the goose and the one sheep, Oreo, one of my wife's pets. And we've got the we've got the water tank up here. That's the tank that gravity feeds this side of the farm. I don't think Mr. CJ the Bull is too happy to see the drone. All right. That is what they get to eat for about the next week. So they should be pretty happy. Well, I just had an interesting situation. I'm getting ready to brush hog here behind the cows because this front field gets pretty weedy. The PTO on the brush hog was stuck, which is not new. It gets stuck, you know, every now and then, you know, once every couple years, I guess. And this time I decided to take the shields off, and Katie will have to see if she can figure out how to inlay a picture. I took a picture of it. The internal spine from the PTO coming from the gearbox side of the brush hog was actually like completely twisted. The shaft, the tractor side shaft was fine. I'm wondering if I did that or if I bought it like that, because I bought it used years back. So, and I never took the covers off. That's the first time I took the covers off. So I don't know. That was interesting. I have never seen steel twist like that. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm getting ready to brush hog about 2 acres or so. where the cows were just at here in the front field, just trying to keep the weeds manageable so they don't take over, and try to let the grass, you know, establish a little bit better. Alright, got that 2 acres of mostly forbs knocked down. I don't typically do that. That field is still kind of working its way into our regular rotation with grazing, so it's not as it's not as far along as the rest of our pastures are with improvement. So giving it a mechanical clip after our livestock go through helps it to reset and allows some more, you know, grasses and legumes like clovers and stuff to start to grow in. Stuff that's more palatable to the livestock. They do eat some of that stuff that I was clipping, but it's just too abundant for them to, you know, sit there and eat all of it. So they start to complain once the grass is gone. But this allows it to reset a little bit, and especially with this year, with it being so wet, it'll grow back pretty quickly. Whereas if it was a really dry year, I would be hesitant to do that, at least that low. I might, you know, clip like really high just to knock the seed heads off and stuff. But in a wet year, there's enough moisture still in the ground there for the desirable species to take root and, you know, establish faster. But yeah, that's all for that job. We'll see what we get into next. I really have no idea what's on my plate at this point. Probably this afternoon, work on the brush. I was up there a little bit earlier doing some, but then I had to come down and take care of some stuff, and then I got distracted with doing that brush. So probably go back up there to that fence line where the cows are and get the rest of that brush down towards the road finished tonight once it cools off a little bit. Well, I've only got to go about another 30 or 40 feet. It's not that hard. I mean, some of what I just did was pretty brutal, but looking at what's left, I think I can get it done before the sun goes down. I got maybe an hour left, a little bit more than 1 water bottle of water left. So yeah, I just have to get to that big tree right over there. So I think I'm just going to push through tonight and see how I feel in the morning. Alright, I feel like I'm staring directly into the sun. But that's a wrap on the brush clearing job. I think, well, correction, in this direction. I still have that hillside to do. That's mostly with the weed eater, so that shouldn't take too long. And then I gotta clear stumps and take out the old fence, you know, the old field fence. But got this cluster of trees to cut down, and then I think 3 or 4 up on top of the hill to do as well. There's one down in the valley, that cherry tree, that's kind of close to the power line. I haven't made up my mind on that yet. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's going to be like right in my way too. So got to figure out what I want to do with that. But sun's just about to go below the trees, so that's all for this evening. We'll see what we get into over the next day or two. Look what we have here. I had a feeling that we would have one of the two real soon, and that she would be next. We have ourselves a little calf. I haven't got a real good look at it, but I think it is a bull calf. She still has the afterbirth hanging out of her, so I definitely caught her early. Oh, I think we have a little girl. This mama has another little girl. Bucky, come. Alright, I'm gonna go get some iodine and I will be right back. Alright, I'm heading back up to give some iodine to the heifer calf. We like to spray the umbilical cord with iodine whenever we can, so that any joint ill or anything that could potentially get introduced through the umbilical is reduced. It also helps it dry out faster as well. She's just laying here in the shade. Good mama. Did you finish? Nope. Afterbirth is still coming out. Look. That's all there is to it. We like to leave mom and baby alone and let them do their natural thing of, you know, connecting with each other. In this situation, I'm seeing all the signs that I would want to see from a good mom. She's very attentive to the baby. She has separated herself completely from the herd to give birth. So this one is going as it should for the birth of a newborn cow. So Just kind of leave them alone and not do any additional stress on the mother or the baby. And yeah, just let them bond. This is the first time we've had any calf on this side of the farm, so I'm kind of nervous about where she might end up running off if she does. But typically what I have found is it's mostly our bull calves that like to separate themselves from their mom after birth for about the first week. The females seem to stay with mom a lot better. So yeah, just trying to think through, you know, what hiding spots she could end up in if she ends up, you know, getting on this side of the wire or whatever. So long as she doesn't fall in the pond or anything, I'll be happy. So with that, we're now up to 15 head. We have one to go to hit 16, hopefully for the remainder of this year. And then of course we're gonna start harvesting one at least. Wouldn't mind doing another one like that mom that, you know, Daisy's mom that had the issues. But I suspect she's probably already bred at this point, and I don't particularly want to harvest a bred cow. Hanging out here in the shade, eating some of the forbs that pop up in our tree rows. Here comes the baby cow, the new baby cow's almost twin sister. Same mother, same father. The black heifer through the brush there. She is, I guess, technically very close to identical genetics. Are you gonna be shy? Yep. So in a year, that's what this baby will look like around about. She's looking really nice, growing out well.
You're swimming in the water.
Oh.
This is so much fun. Is Archer swimming? Look at you swimming.
Look at you.
Are you kicking your legs? Good boy.
Yeah.
Oh. 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 There you go.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. All right, it's the evening of the day that heifer calf was just born, so I'm coming back to the scene of the crime, and I take note, Mom passed her afterbirth, so that's a good thing. She is not in this location, so let's see if I can find her. Alright, I see 3 off to the left of me, and the majority of the herd is right here in front of me. So we'll see if Mama is with the herd. Yep. Wait, nope. That's way too big. Oh yeah, there she is. Hiding. All right. Hi, Mama. Looking good. There's something about newborn heifer calves that just do really well. Even when I was raising sheep, it seems like the boys are the ones that always have the issues. But girls seem to start really strong. They just know what to do. Hi, honey. Getting some good milk. She's got some good fill in her abdomen area already as well, so she's definitely getting good milk. I like what I'm seeing. Mama's very attentive. This is what makes Dexters awesome. They are good mothers. You just have to, select for it when you're selecting your breeding stock, and that's why I'm very tempted to address the issue with our anomaly, with our bottle baby, because that is just not acceptable to me. Alright, we'll leave him for the night. Protection of the herd. After that newborn was born this morning, we spent most of the day away hanging out with family, and the topic of conversation came up about how we select for livestock, and making sure that they're good mothers so that we can go away. There's something to be said about a farmer that leaves in the middle of calving or lambing season or what have you, pick your animal, and just picks up the pieces whenever they get back. It's a sign that they're selecting for the best mothers in their group. Is one way to think about that. You can't baby your animals too much and expect them to thrive in your environment, in your management system. So we were talking like, my family knows the way that I select for my livestock, and hearing about the bottle baby situation, it's like they kind of figured and brought up the fact that, well, that mother's probably not going to last long because she did something wrong, and I'm sure I'm going to handle it, and I will figure out how to do that, within our system. With her most likely being bred again, we will probably, I don't want to, but we will probably end up doing one more calving with her, see how it goes. It'll be her 3rd time. Kind of typically what I do with breeding is one strike and you're out. This unfortunately would be strike 3 if she were to screw up next year again. But you know, we're in a situation right now where it's really hard for us to manage a second group of animals by, you know, pulling our bulls out and you know, managing our breeding season. That's something that we would probably be able to start doing next year after some of the major projects here are taken care of. It's taking time. But yeah, you gotta call hard in order to have low maintenance, easy keeping herd or flock or whatever. And that's how we manage our livestock here at the homestead. So
Kitty, want some wet food? Oh no. Is that your meow meow? This is our garlic harvest for the year. We have a ton of garlic in here, but also a ton of weeds and also some strawberry plants. So I'm just harvesting and kind of cleaning them up a little bit. I don't have clippers on me right now, but I'll come back probably tomorrow and cut them off, and then we're gonna let them cure for a while, and then we will have plenty to do all sorts of culinary things with. We can freeze dry some, we can make honey fermented garlic. Uh-oh. Oh no. So our biggest, nicest cloves will be planted again this fall for next year's harvest. And anything that is a little bit smaller or starting to split open like this will be what we use for cooking purposes. And we just want to let them dry out fully before we do anything with them. That really helps to preserve them better so they don't get moldy, and then also it helps to mellow the flavor a little bit. But I'm just getting some of the dirt off now, cleaning them up. What do you think, Archer? Are you gonna help? Look at the garlic. See it? And help me put them in the basket. There's a nice big one, but it's splitting. Coming out pretty easily. I jinxed myself. Yeah. That one is a worm. My plan is to really tackle these weeds after we get all the garlic out. But for being neglected, the bulbs look nice. Look at that big one.
is that ripe? Here you go. You got a good one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Alright, it's the next morning, and this is what I come out to the pasture to see. Baby's up and nursing already. Man, she looks good. Gonna be a little bit of a hot one today. The cows are choosing to browse over here in the brush under the trees, trying to stay cool. Of course, they have their water at the bottom end of this row of trees, but they're all in there, even though it's hard to see many of them. Hi, Dolly. Alright, I got an hour or two here before sundown. I'm going to see what I can get done with the trimmer on the hill, going down on the hillside. I think I want to get this done, and then I'll start working on stumps and trees and stuff. So let's get to it. Alright, well, I didn't get very far. I had originally planned on trying to jump over the fence and clean up on the neighbor's side of the fence as well, but I'm looking at it and it's a wall of brush well over my head, and it just feels too daunting, at least in the summer, to tackle something like that. So I think I'm just going to try to beat it back to his fence and call it good enough for now. But that tree, the cherry tree down there just past the telephone pole, that's one that definitely has to come out. I went down to look at it. It's actually leaning pretty hard away from the electric lines, which is great. I think what I'm going to do is try to use the tractor or the side-by-side or something and drop it kind of parallel to the power lines, and if the weight of it, with it leaning so far away from the telephone pole, if it ends up in some of my trees over there, that's fine, I can pull it out. I think that'll be the game plan for that. But the cows, once the cows are done up there, they're gonna come into here and graze here for probably 5 days is my guess, because it's not going to be quite as big as where they're at right now. But yeah, talking about the cows, let's get a flyover and see what impact 14, 15 head of cows can have on a pasture in about a week. I think it's been almost a full week since they were put up in this pasture, so let's do a flyover and see what they've done. Alright, we're gonna start up here in the top corner. You know, one thing about cows is that they say they don't eat forbs and, you know, what other people would call weeds very much, but what I've seen with Dexter so far is they don't seem to apply to that rule. The one thing you see left here in the pasture that's pretty abundant is what I believe is goldenrod. They do eat the tops of it a good bit, but I think it's just a situation where there's just so much of it. But yeah, from the aerial view here, you'll see mostly brown. You know, it's going to look a lot more brown than it did in the intro video, you know, before we left them in to graze. They've been on here for about a full week now. And I found the goose there. When I did a flyover earlier, I actually made the cows stampede away. I think the drone freaked them out a good bit. But I'm moving down here to where I mowed. Just wanted to show, you know, that the grasses and the clovers, when you get a real up close view, are actually already starting to come in. And you can see some spots where we grazed in the winter. But the pasture is looking a lot better. With a little bit of rain, it'll jump and be ready for the next graze. So yeah, this is 1 week's worth of grazing with 15 head. I mean, really 14. And that includes a couple youngins. Alright, I'm going to do a walkthrough just so you can get a better sense of some of these forbs here along the tree row where it was real dense, just since I did that earlier. Give you a quick walkthrough at ground level to see the difference. Alright, so here's what it's looking like down at eye level. One thing I really pick up on right away is how much more open this feels to walk through. When the cows were first introduced up here, it was, you know, you take a step and you're rubbing against the brush on both sides, you know, with tiny little tire track lanes, but they've definitely been picking through here. The goldenrod or whatever this is just so abundant that they get tired of it. But they do eat some of it. Like that looks like that's been hit pretty good, although that could be from the side-by-side running it over as well. But there will be some tops eaten off of them. And then just whole sections of area thinned out from grazing. So I'd like to leave them in here for a little bit longer before I move them over. I'm not really in a rush. And I mean, even this multiflora rose, they hit that pretty good. Actually, no. That's a locust tree. But they do nibble on multiflora rose, which I love the fact that they do, because that is my nemesis. All right. Well, before I say goodbye, I do have one more update to give you. Let's go see what's up with the chickens. We've got some developments with the chickens here recently. Daisy is doing well. She had a bit of diarrhea this week, but it seems like it was just a quick thing. She's over it. Her eyes are looking really good too. All right, well, I don't know where we left the last update with the chickens, but they've been moved to the backyard. They're adjusting quite well. They do jump out a little bit every now and then, but they find their way back in. I don't think they particularly care for all the commotion back here, but yeah, we got our first eggs from the batch. The white eggs are from leghorns, and the brown egg is from an enhanced Delaware. So we're waiting for the brown eggs to get a little bit bigger before we start collecting some for the incubator. But to get our numbers back up and, you know, to grow the flock, we're looking at incubating some some Delaware eggs so that we can get some more hens. I think we've got 3 roosters and 6 or 7 Delaware hens, and then the balance are white leghorns. But yeah, everything is going well now that the coop is here in the backyard, protected from any predators.
What are you saying?
But that'll do it on Homestead Citadel for the week. So thank you for watching.